Hey guys, Crusty Old Crow back doing another TCCC, the Crow's Customs Corner Creation Comic Character Concepts Canada Calamity. Whatever you want the C's to stand for, whatever I put in the title, that's what it is. I'm just going over my notes today to try and get a little organized. Quickly whip off a daily video for you. As you know, I'm trying to keep this content going. Please, those algorithm gods. So my channel can get where I want it to be, which is... not lucrative. I don't care about the making money or having deals or sponsors. I don't give a rat's ass about that. It's having the high participation level, having contests, giveaways, and having good Joe discussions, and just learning more about this market that I'm enjoying. And I find that's been happening more as the channel grows, because I get to talk to more people, and I get to ask questions when I want to ask questions of certain people, and I do that through tuning into lives. And I realized if I really wanted to have an open discussion, I better get on live. So that's what you guys saw on my channel this weekend. It was me, motivating myself to say, stop procrastinating, stop acting like you're not, it's not worth doing. Of course it is. And I did it. And so I did one Saturday morning that I warned you guys about. A little bit of a hiccup trying to connect to the stream I had set up. But I was able to just quickly bounce off another stream. I kind of know what I did wrong there now. And on top of that, I got some feedback from the toy enhancer who told me about StreamYard, which I played with on Sunday. And we sat down and jammed. And that's where he saw sci-fi come up. So before I get too far... Sci-fi, all I'm doing with sci-fi, this morning I was lightening up some of that, putting some more of that green back, because I didn't have enough of it to feel like sci-fi, really. Enough green of that lighter tone. I wanted to have like a camouflage bleed down effect. It's not really working out. I wouldn't say I'm overly happy with the sci-fi, but it's passable, and at this point I'm just committed to getting it done. But the helmet, I think I can work some green onto those bands. I'll get this looking more like a sci-fi. I mean, it still looks like one to me now, but that's because I know what it is and I have the gun. I'm working on all of that with some decals and some better paint as we go. But remember, I also got the alternate head. I got all that. So sci-fi, I'm hoping to have him done by tomorrow for a presentation video, but he's in the background today. But yeah, after I saw where he was at yesterday, I put him up on that shelf, and he said, yeah, you know what? I'm just not happy with it as far as where those colors are going. There's just not enough to tell me that is the old sci-fi in the color set. So I was working at correcting that. But I was struggling to try and remember what figure it came from, guys. And I kept saying, maybe it's Apex, maybe it's Fortnite, maybe it's this, that, the other thing. I really have no idea where this figure came from, but this is the torso and the head that came with it. Sorry, yeah, the problem with having primed all my stuff black is when I go to show you stuff, eh? But if you guys recognize what this torso is, and the shoulder I've ripped to shit because it seized right up on me, because, yeah. And this is the helmet, which I think makes for a good lamprey or sea-type character, like a Cobra Eel assistant or some sort. I've got this set aside for... future purposes. But yeah, that's where that figure came, with the legs and the arms and everything for that figure. Like I said, that's a War Machine from Marvel, a steel core helmet that I added bits to, and the rest of it is that figure, right? So the War Machine is just the torso. So we've got him off to the side. I'm working on him today. Gonna try and get a review in on this used Scarlet I picked up a while back. I thought it was incomplete. Turns out, no, it's complete. So I just got to research it. But it'll be another review I do where there's no box. And it is the earlier line. But I'm actually kind of a little taken with this character. It's better in my hand than I thought it would be when I saw it online in a box. And didn't really care because whatever. I had this, the Origins one. So the big thing of late that's come up is, guys, I'm not giving enough credit to the guy at Grievance in our subscriber base who nailed it when I asked for a suggestion to reinforce my Joe Winter troops up on the shelf here. Well, whatever, I'll show you. I asked for a suggestion, and I took the low light suggestion for sure. I'm trying to work out my low light concept to finish up my winter group. And then I've got Stalker V2 coming from Loki Wartooth that I'm gonna add to it, kayak and all. But he suggested doing the Red Dawn Wolverines, and I was like, shit, yes, absolutely, because they had a winter assault appeal, and it was a brilliant suggestion. And as the days have gone on, the biggest thing I've ever heard back from people who've heard of this suggestion from Grievance, gotta say it's from Grievance, was that it was brilliant because no one else was doing it, right? No one's seen Red Dawn for classified. Now I feel like I'm doing it an injustice by making them all background characters, but there's a specific reason for it, guys, and it's me curbing my enthusiasm or getting in front of my ADHD and my predilection to impulse buying just for the sake of, oh my god, I think I need it. I could embrace doing the Red Dawn with non-stop classified figures. I have a bunch of broken down classified figures for conversions, like an extra stalker, an extra grunt, an extra whatever. But I want to keep those for Joe classified, repaint conversions, concept, things like that. With Red Dawn, the opportunity I saw was all those other figures I've been buying, the other brands that maybe I just needed a couple of the parts or the kit for that figure. Maybe, yeah, I had an idea that went to the wayside, and I that figure's just sitting there. That's where I saw the opportunity. And if you think about Red Dawn, guys, we're dealing with an assortment of basically high school and college age kids with a couple of military aged adults mixed in there in Andy and his group. And if you're not familiar with the movie Red Dawn, we're talking about the 1980s version Red Dawn, 1985, I think it was, versus the more recent Hemsworth Red Dawn remake. I'm just calling up the photos I have of them right now. Sorry guys, I just had so much to go over right now today, and I gotta put a paintbrush in my hand yet. Red Dawn, Red Dawn, Red Dawn. Where did I leave those guys' pictures? There's all the Hasbro Pulse. But yeah, so when it came to using scrap figures and all that, it was a good excuse because I had a bunch of mixed sizes. So here we are, the Red Dawn pick. So between this photo of the cast of Red Dawn, you're looking at like guys like Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, not in the photos as Powers Booth, but Charlie Sheen's in there, Leah Thompson, some big names for their time. So yeah, in between this photo where I see their Letterman jackets and just kind of the country high school kid appeal, I know that they're in the back of a pickup truck, and this where they've adopted stolen Russian kit and weapons and things like that and mixed it. I saw the concept that he was talking about right away and said, absolutely, yes. And again, it was Charlie Sheen's character, I believe that is. Yeah, in the Russian tanker camo stuff with the RPG that sold it on me. I said, I absolutely have to make that character. And that's the one I'm doing this up as a variant on that. So here's the extra commitment I have to put to it now. Because, pardon me, guys, I got a little bit of a sniffle. I better... Ooh, go off camera for a second. There you go. Because of the fact that a lot of these characters I am using them for are little animes that I picked up at the dollar store. Some came with boxes, like the stage set, which is a part of that 350 contest. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that big Goku whatever manga stage that I have for some of my videos, Aaron has it for some of his now, and it is a prize on the 350. It came with one of these guys, right? So it's this head, and so this is what I've now challenged to do is the compatibility. So that moves them to the high school age size and things like that, but their head features they're hit and miss, right? You've got the shape right, but there's little tiny noses and big eyes, or unreasonably large eyes and features just painted on where there should be definition. So what I'm going to try my hand at right now, because I tried it a little bit with my major blood conversion, is to use green stuff to try and add some depth to the facial features of these heads so that I can get these guys going better. Yeah, so I showed these in the live. This is black Krylon with gray primer, and then I did up as white and some I did as gray, because I'm gonna try and capture a more mixed bag of this and try and capture what each of these kids are wearing. It's just the heads that I'm gonna not worry so much about making them as accurate or worthwhile with, right? And I did have this good Fortnite figure, and I'm using a Star Wars whatever sale. I can never remember her name, but she came with that AK star gun. She was on clearance. She's cheap on Amazon. Seth Varma, I think, or whatever. She's from Andor. But yeah, the Fortnite, even that with the eyes, this is what I called the minimal pass for the eyes. Is like, okay, I'll have one where I don't fuck around with it, and it's probably going to be this one, because these ones need it more. This one's passable, but this one came with this leather, or this soft piece around her waist on her other top. Her other top is this big honking yellow whatever. And she had a busted arm, so I replaced the top so I could replace the arms. But this still goes around her waist well. And I figure this is going to be the Wolverines Leatherman jacket from their high school, right? So that'll go around there. So that makes her either Tony or Erica, I think. And then I've got Tommy, Matt, and Robert. Or sorry, Aardvark, Robert, and Matthew. Yeah, something like that in these characters. And that's what I'm doing today and tomorrow, basically, is working on those so that display I built for them, makes sense. What did I want to talk about today while I start doing just a light base coat on the Charlie Sheen one, or no, work on the head. I gotta work on the head. I wanted to talk about what I saw on It's Chad last night on the chat there. Because he had two good guests on last night, and it's worth talking about again. If you haven't watched that stream, go back and watch it. It was so you want to make a toy line or something like that. I can't remember the exact title, but he had Mikey from JOK Custom Works on, and his dad, his papa, John Kuvovich. I'm not sure if I'm saying that last name right, and I feel bad if I wasn't. Kuvavich. But anyways, of his company, the Grindstone Toys, and their line for call sign Longbow, which is basically it's as I gather, 3 1/4 Joe type line, basically. But it's not Joe, but I've got pictures of it here. I had not seen this before, but you guys know I don't do O-ring or O-ring parallels. So I apologize for ignorance, I guess, but this line that he was working on, here was the stream you're looking for. And did I screenshot my comment this morning? Yeah, because it's relevant to my show, right? And it was just we got a lesson in marketing and development of when you have a toy idea in your head to what it takes to get that toy on a peg and into someone's hands. And it really was high perspective used for absorbing this stuff, right? And it brought a lot of questions I had just sitting in the back of my mind, because I've often tried to understand what toy companies are held up by sometimes when what seems like common sense to all of us fans, we're all so smart, eh? We all know exactly where the successes lie. They're idiots because they don't do it. Right? Isn't that the logic at play? No, it's not. It's everybody can see the writings on the wall of what should happen, but obviously there's got to be some unseen background stuff that causes things not to happen. And I found John really kind of painted a beautiful portrait of what some of those things could be, and I asked him a couple of questions about, like, where does the small guy stand in the market for potential, and what he's got, can he even compete anymore without going to these big box places and signing contracts to basically gamble their line, which is exactly what it is. A contract with a big box distributor can bankrupt a line when they're just starting, and he did give examples of that. So I started thinking about our problems with classified, and when I was in the army, we did a thing called I became very trained in things like dispute resolution and conflict management and things like that. So, pardon me while I use my own time to just give you an impression of where I'm going with that. So, I wanted to have a look at this problem with Joe vehicles. Let's talk about Joe vehicles and play sets. It's come up a couple of times. Everybody wants to slide in and prioritize HasLab and prioritize Hasbro and say this needs to be the next project, and we're all guilty of it, right? By the way, guys, there's some pictures of the Longbow figurines while I'm talking there, and that's the ones that he was using as an example last night of his Soviet futuristic basically alternate timeline, alternate reality thing. But so you look at what Hasbro has done for vehicles so far. They rolled the dice. They knew it was going to come. You can't tackle Joe and say we won't do vehicles, we'll just do Joe. That doesn't work. That's like saying we'll do He-Man, but we're not going to focus on anything to do with Grayskull or Panthers or any of that stuff. It just Mask, no vehicles, really. So you had to do it, right? And they knew they were going to have to tackle it. So they started us off with things like the Ram and Baroness's Coil. Low price points, bit of play value, felt the market. The collectors seem to be happy, more or less, with having these things sit on their shelves and you could cross feature. And that's the big thing about vehicles. Yeah, you come with a driver, but is that the driver that the consumer uses, or do they use something else from their collection? Add much discussion after that. So I was thinking about it, and I was looking, okay, what are Hasbro's holdups that we're just not talking about, right? So I look at what Hasbro has for their the shit they got to deal with as a company, right? When we talk about, all right, we've got something we want, why aren't you doing it? Okay, they've got to be able to examine revenue. It has to be able to stay in the growth column. If a project doesn't hit the projected sales, that's not going to be growth. That's in the red, right? It has to be able to survive setbacks. So maybe there was a quality control issue. Maybe there was something else like this. That setback and the lack of sales of that particular model can't compromise that annual return for that company, especially if it could perhaps put an end to the idea of ever trying vehicles, right, on a one-off. They have to be able to dominate and compete with respective markets, right? So, Hasbro kind of owns its own market, but I mean, you can't act like there's not other competitors out there that are doing things that conversion artists are buying to apply to a Hasbro-based collection of sorts, right? So, if they release a vehicle, say a large truck-like vehicle, but they make it, say, $300 or $200, but a guy who is, fiscally watching what he's spending on classified says $200-300 is best spent on 5 to 6 figures, and this other company makes this vehicle which is compatible, and that satisfies that dopamine release of even having a vehicle from my line. Yeah, that's something they're up against, right? And we see it with AEW slam trucks and RC crawler tanks, and all sorts of things. Certain battle mechs that can be picked up in U.S. market really cheap that a certain toy enhancer does a lot of conversions with, right? All of this is stuff that's not going to Hasbro as far as revenue. They have to be aware whether or not that expansion, if it's an expansion of any type, can catch a quick market. They have to be able to meet their supply and demand issues. Everybody says they want something available to them. That doesn't mean they want something and they're going to buy it. Look at some of the YouTube content creators that already spoke up about Mad Marauders. More than a few said right away, nah, I'm going to wait till this is on clearance. An open voice is out there for Hasbro to listen to sometimes that will tell them, sometimes we're going to fuck you revenue-wise, wait for you to fail, and then we'll capitalize. What you think about that? Okay, well, they got to consider that from now on, right? Because that is a voice that's coming back to them, right? Customer relations are always the hardest for them to stay up with, right? So, we all have our opinions, and we all have different ideas of what's acceptable and what isn't for them to do as a toy line. How do you please everybody all the time? You don't, right? Quality control issues. We talked about the weapons. We talk about loose joints, things like this. They have to constantly be on top of that. Well, what makes you think vehicles aren't going to have quality control issues? Really? Yeah. Broken hinge points, broken wheel axles because of a drop on the floor, ball joints for the turrets of a, say, flight pod that get broken because of a fall off a display shelf because you owned a cat or a dog or a rambunctious 5-year-old. Like these are all things that are also risks, and that's cost, right? So they have to have legal diligence to stay on top of their properties to make sure that they own them the right way, and then patents for their stuff, or else other companies will come and do it better and cheaper, perhaps. All of that stuff to produce a popular line that we just say we want. Right? Don't even get started about scheduling and shipping and packaging. Packaging is way more than you think it is. And that's kind of where I was going with what I was thinking about here. So I think about HasLab is the only thing that's doing the big vehicles that we really associated with our Joe childhood, right? If you're going to get a Dragonfly, it's going to be a HasLab. If you're going to get a his tank, well, that's a HasLab. So where do you think the hovercraft is going to fall if that ever did come out? Or say the headquarters or the Rattler, as they seem to really want to talk about the Rattler a lot. That's all going to be HasLab, and that's a high-end buy-in system. It might not even work, and then you're getting all these tier locks and all that. Well, where's the middle ground? It's not the retail shelf when you're doing, say, the let's say Vamp or Flight Pods, and they're in the $100 and things like that. That's not sustainable when you think about a 6-inch figure line. By the time you've spent $1,000 on 3-4 vehicles, good luck on I don't know, and the figures that go with them, you've filled up a display shelf almost. Right? Now what? Are you going to be able to keep buying all those vehicles you had as a kid, or do you have to have a cap? Hasbro can't gamble on which vehicles you want and which ones you don't as they grow. Right now they're safe because they're just getting started with vehicles, but get a few in there, and then we're gonna start running into things where, well, we thought that would sell better and it didn't. So how do we get around it, guys? Sorry, this green stuff I'm doing for his eye is not working out well. I'm really fucking this face up a bit, but I found that if you keep working at it, sometimes the solution presents itself. So I'm just going to keep doing it while I talk about this. I kind of think I have a figure out idea, and it came from Thomas last night. Yeah, when he was talking and showing off his Soviet products, and he was saying, this is how they start, right? And he showed us a sprue. A sprue. If you guys don't know what a sprue I'm talking about, I think most of you are. A model sprue, like what you would get when you buy a scale model from a company, right? Like all the model pieces come on this. Well, action figures are no different. They come off the assembly line, and somebody, I guess, takes them off the sprue and slaps them together. That's probably how my nunchuck had 2 left feet. They all come like this. Look at this. This is a Staghound sprue that I've scrapped for parts. Hey, it's a vehicle. Why Hasbro would not entertain the idea of just going direct sprue ordering for vehicles of larger sales is something I'm kind of wondering the answer to. Hear me out. I'm a collector, but I'm also a hobbyist. So I can accept the idea of buying a vehicle that comes unassembled and I have to assemble it and paint it. I have years of modeling experience in some way. Not fashion, but hand. Not hand as in like Zoolander, but hand as in working with my hands and modeling. I can accept buying, let's say, a hovercraft. A bunch of sprues for a hovercraft that I have to assemble and paint and put together myself. Maybe they've got some prefab pieces put together that needed it. And maybe it's like an IKEA kit. And maybe that helps them save on assembly, paint, and a lot of other costs that we associate with these high price items. Would there be a market for this if it was if that's how you got the selection of vehicles you wanted, and Hasbro didn't want to gamble on boxing a bunch to send over to Target and watch them sit, knowing the guy's only going to wait till they go on clearance? If we had an ordering system through Hasbro Pulse or HasLab or something that, say, allowed you to buy the Vamp off the shelf, and I know they're going to reprint the Vamp in every variant possible, but as you went over the years, that might not be sustainable at all with other vehicles. But imagine just buying upgrade sprues for a Vamp to turn it into a Vamp Mark II. So you got the doors and you got a new turret system, a couple add-ons or some extra decals, right? Imagine the Polar Arctic Bear, that snowmobile, being just a sprue set you buy for $40, and they mail it to you, and you put that together. And I'm just using that as an example, like an American $40 sprue, and you have a Hasbro Arctic Bear. Yeah, they could model it all, maybe have it, the different varieties. I don't know. Maybe they come pre-painted and you just assemble them. Maybe they come blank, like I said, and you do all of it. Either way, I think that's the only middle ground the market can meet. Otherwise, you're always going to have a large voice in the community going, well, that vehicle was screwed. I wasted my money and I'm never doing this again. And in amongst those voice will still be the usual guys going, I was satisfied. I liked this vehicle. Thank you, Hasbro. But imagine being able to quiet those voices by saying, well, did you go get that cheap sprue to make it what you wanted? That came across my head last night while I was tuning into Chad's after I sat back and thought about everything. And that's the thing, guys. If you see me on chat, I'm there. And if I'm staying in that chat, not making jokes, it means I'm listening hard to what's being said. And it's resonating because, like I said, I love all aspects of this hobby. I love all aspects of Joe. And toy collecting has really caught my interest. But I'm here to learn, right? I want to get better at it. I'm not trying to be a subject matter expert, but I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be more informed with my content, have a stronger opinion, have stronger thoughts and projections on what works. And when I look at the sprue thought, I look at what that takes away from what it ends up taking away from Hasbro is nothing. What it takes away from us is nothing. What it allows is a lot of things, but would it work? I have no idea. Probably not. There's probably some factor I'm not considering right now that would prevent Hasbro from even looking at it. But imagine it for the serious collectors that really want those vehicles. If this was made, would that make them respect Hasbro as a Joe-loving line? I think it would. That's the bottom line for me, man. What Hasbro says is that they love their Joe. What they do shows that there's a big strategy that says money is also a part of why they love their Joe. It's not the only reason. They do love their Joe. I can see it in their design sometimes. But it's a big part. And if money becomes an issue for them, it becomes a huge issue for us, right? I'm just looking at it going, man, I wish I could just go to Hasbro headquarters and spend a day just talking with those guys and going, hey, man, let's go outside the box for a minute and see why you didn't do this, right? Like, help me understand it because it's there. I don't believe they're evil people. I don't believe they're idiots. And I don't believe any obvious decision that doesn't happen is done out of ignorance. I believe there's always a reason and a perspective that's not openly known. And watching these streams, like the one last night with It's Chad, and getting to talk to these guys, like I said, last week I got to talk to Ron Rudat, for fuck's sakes. The other night I got to talk to JLS Toys, and then last night Mikey JMK Customs was there and his dad, and they run toy companies, for God's sakes. Of course I want to hear it from them. That's what I love about the live stuff, guys. Hey, listen, I'm really got to get on to other things. I wanted to keep it under a half hour today because I've got stuff I want to do for my Wolverine display. I got to work on sci-fi. I got to mention the like, share, subscribe stuff because I'm trying to grow and get that algorithm to get me kind of the next video in line after you watch somebody far more talented like Chad or Punk or Aaron get me in that scroll. But thanks very much, guys, for letting the old man rant today, and I will give you some updates on some of these figures again tomorrow, I think. Before I leave, Thursday is when I take off to England. Yeah, maybe I'll find some Action Force or something. I don't know. Cheer me up. Anyways, guys, thanks again. Pound that like on the way out, and I will see you in the comment section.